Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today we are here to talk about yet another foundation from Smashbox. So if that's something you're interested in watching, you're in the right place. We're about to get into it.
I'm a lone wolf. 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 I'm a
Well, you guys, very rarely have I come across a foundation so requested by you guys to talk about. So I am going to break this one down for you guys today. Now, Smashbox came out with a brand new Studio Skin foundation. It comes in a little tube like this. I'll give you guys a close-up of it here. It's just a little plastic tube. There's not anything really fantastic about it. It is a full fluid ounce. It is a full coverage 24-hour claim wearing foundation. It does retail for $36, and currently you can find it anywhere where Smashbox is sold. Now, the thing about this foundation is it's very tricky. So this is going to be one of those foundations that you either love it or you're going to hate it. Now, I personally don't mind this foundation at all, but you do have to, there is kind of a learning curve when it comes to this foundation. It is a little bit tricky to work with. The main problem or issue with this foundation is that it sets super fast. Now, they say in all of the PR for this particular product that it is going to reveal its true color within 60 seconds and that it sets very quickly. So in other words, it oxidizes. So most foundations, when they're wet, they're like one color, and then once they set down, they're kind of like a different color. And a lot of people sometimes call that oxidation, but you know, I don't know. There's a lot of debate out there as to what oxidation actually is and what it is when a formula is just wet versus what it looks like dry. Personally, for me, the color change in this was not very dramatic, but it is a little bit darker than what it looks like wet. So when you're putting it on your hand, just give it 60 seconds and you'll see it dry down. Now, when this stuff sets, you guys, it sets. Just to give you a little bit of an example, this is foundation. I put a drop on here today and kind of bounced my beauty blender around on here as I was getting ready to film this video. This was about 30 minutes ago. Now, when this stuff sets, you guys, I mean, it's it sets. It sets on your face. Let me get a wipe and just show you. It's not, this stuff is no joke, you guys. So when it sets on your skin, like it really sets. You can't, oh my gosh, it's pretty difficult even with a makeup wipe to get this stuff like off of your face. That is how, I can't get that spot off. That is how super like setting this stuff is. It dries down like, I've never seen a foundation dry down like this before. It sets to an extreme. Now, because of that, you are going to have the potential to really overdo it with this foundation, like really overdo it. So not only is there the potential to overdo it, but the application process can get really hairy with this one. So what'll happen is when it sets, number one, when it sets down to kind of like a powdery finish. So it's very, it feels like you don't need to set it with powder once it actually sets on the skin. So imagine putting foundation like on just half of your face and then setting it with powder and doing all of that and then going in with brand new foundation and trying to do the top half of your face. Do you know the problem that you would have in between there trying to get the finished side and the newly applied side to blend, and how it just doesn't sit right and it kind of is wonky a little bit? Well, you run into that with this particular foundation during application if you aren't like quick with it. This product, once it sets, it just doesn't want to move. It doesn't want to blend. So where I ran into problems when I was doing application of this is, I did my whole face fairly quickly because I got two different colors. One is darker and one's a little lighter. I thought maybe I would use the lighter color and use that like in the center of the face to just brighten a little bit. So after I had put my initial first layer on, I went in with the lighter color and tried to like brighten the nose, and it was a mess, you guys. Like the initial layer was coming off and it was patchy and it was not good. It was like trying to put foundation on top of a completely set, powdered, and finished face, and then you just like went in with foundation and started blending away on a face that was already completed. It's that kind of a mess. So application with this can be tricky. I will say this, if you just, and I mean the littlest amount, the pigment in this, you guys, is bananas. Like I genuinely, a drop like this is the drop that I initially put on my plate. This drop covered my entire face. I just took a beauty blender. You saw the little pounce marks I had in here. I took a little beauty blender and used that one drop, and it did my whole face. The consistency of this stuff is pretty thick. Like it's a very thick consistency, but you do not need a lot. And if you go in with a lot, you're gonna look cakey. So the key with this is to use a very, very tiny amount. What I really like to do is, actually, matter of fact, I think the application that I'm going to show you guys here in just a second was with a brush. I love the way this applies with a brush. I put the dot down on my palette and I just tap like a couple of dots, and then I immediately go in with a brush and just blend it out. And I work my way around in sections and get it all blended out, and I move pretty quickly because you want to work fast with this stuff. But if you do a couple of things, it really looks gorgeous. Now, because of the lockdown and because this is like an oil controlling, shine free type of formula, it's not as drying as I thought it was going to be, but it still is on the drier side. So it's not necessarily like a nice hydrating, moisturizing formula like something like the Guerlain would be, or, a more luminous kind of nourishing foundation would be. It's just a basic like full coverage foundation, and so you want to make sure that if you have normal to combination to dry skin, you really want to moisturize and prep the skin before you go in with this foundation. Number one. Number two, make your application quick. Number three, don't use a lot of product. Go in very, very light layers. To be honest with you, even in a very light layer of this product, you get like a full coverage. Like my hyperpigmentation is like barely coming through in some of these spots, like on my face. Like I have like a mole right here. You can kind of still see that. You can see a couple of my hyperpigmentation spots I have across the bridge of my nose, a couple of the ones that I have down here, but for the most part, a really thin light layer will blank out your entire face. Where I have a problem with this is building it up, because you would have to go in pretty quickly to build up additional coverage on the face, because you want to get in there to do any kind of building up before the product sets down, because once it sets down, I'm telling you what, it's not moving. I can honestly say that after, I would say probably about 10, 12 hours. I'm trying to think of the longest day that I've worn it. It's about 12 hours. I'm not ever going to try a foundation for 24 hours. But I've had pretty long days with this on, and it really still looks good on the skin. Let me show you guys application here just so that you can see kind of what I'm talking about. So again, blend it into the skin. One thing I did notice with this particular foundation is that, again, you have to work fairly quickly. This does claim to have like hyaluronic acid in it. It also claims to have other moisturizing ingredients in here to keep this a little bit more on the hydrated side. However, the stuff like the hyaluronic acid, the grapeseed oil, the soybean seed extract, the bamboo powder, the glycerin, all of that good kind of stuff is in the middle to the bottom as far as the list of ingredients is concerned. So all of the top ingredients are, you know, the main things that we typically look for. It's isododecane is the first ingredient. You've got cross polymers at the beginning. So you're really kind of working with different kinds of compounds in that top half. And then the middle to bottom half is, you know, the more skin nourishing type of ingredients. So definitely not a foundation that I would lean into to give you any kind of hydration. Just make sure that you moisturize. Other than that, make sure that you really get into those pores because, again, this is a quick setter. So if you skip your pores, and you really don't work the product into your pores, you're gonna notice those little teeny tiny holes on your skin after the product sets and you haven't really worked it into those pores. You'll notice those little holes where your pores are that peek through the foundation. So this is one that you really need to work in if you have large pores. I definitely would recommend just not setting this unless you have like oily skin and you want to set it just to have additional oil control throughout the day, then by all means do that. But if you're a normal to dry girl, definitely would recommend not setting this particular foundation. It's just not necessary. It's really long lasting on its own. I personally think that if you use it the correct way, you can get a beautiful finish with this foundation. You can actually get a beautiful application. It can last a really long time without budging, and you get a great amount of coverage out of this foundation. It doesn't turn cakey on you throughout the course of the day unless you've used too much. If you've used too much, it will be cakey on you. I'm going to warn you now. There really isn't a need to use a lot with this. So just remember that less is more when it comes to this particular product. The other struggle that I had with it was one area that I had to like get kind of tricky with is I like to do my face of foundation first and then go in with my concealer and kind of blend my concealer into my foundation. But if your foundation has already set and then you're trying to blend your concealer into it, it can get a little tricky, especially with a foundation that is this quick setting. So I would recommend that any kind of liquid products, like if you're going to maybe do a harsher contour, you can do a contour, do your concealer, and then blend the foundation out over top of it and try and blend that contour in with the foundation as you're applying it. You maybe want to do that. Honestly, with this particular product, I would personally recommend just doing your color correcting and your concealer first, then put this foundation on, and then just stick with powder products once you've put this on. But again, I know it sounds like it's a really high maintenance formula, and it is. It really does have a learning curve when it comes to this particular product. However, I think it's worth it, you guys. I really like the coverage. I like the way my face looks. I like the fact that I can depend on it to look like this all day long. It's water resistant, sweat resistant, heat resistant. It's not gonna sweat off. It's not gonna sink into your fine lines and wrinkles. Once it's there, it is locked and loaded. It is not gonna go anywhere. And I like the fact that I don't have to set this with powder. It's just one less layer on my face, and I can get a more natural look overall, because the less makeup that we have on, the less fake our face looks and the more natural it looks. So I like the fact that I don't necessarily have to go in with powder to set this foundation, and it's still not going to go anywhere. There are 40 shades in this particular line. I got the two that I have is 212, which is light with a neutral undertone, and 218, which is light medium with a neutral undertone. I like to use 218 on the outside of my face, and then I like to use the 212 like just to brighten up in areas in the center of my face. So I actually like using these both. But if you're a light medium complexion like me, then I would stick in that, you know, that 2.0 area, and like between the 2.0 and like the 218. But there's a lot of shades to choose from. Of course, this is a cruelty-free brand, and another good thing about this is even though it's a full coverage foundation, it's non-acnogenic, so it's not going to clog your pores and encourage acne breakouts. So I love that about this as well. So it's good for all skin types. Even if you are acneic, this is a foundation that you can depend on for that as well, because it is non-acnogenic, which is nice to see that listed in the list of benefits for this foundation. I got mine from Smashbox, the website itself, because I think there are a lot of shades that are sold out on like the Sephora websites, and the other big box retailers are already sold out of a lot of shades. But I know the Smashbox site itself still has a lot of those shades available, so definitely go and check that out. But I mean, overall, you guys, I'm definitely going to Erica approve this one, because I think at the end of the day, if you're looking for like a full coverage beat, but you don't want that full coverage feel on your face, you can really get that kind of a look using this foundation. Just remember, moisturize, less is more, work fast, and stick with powder products after applying this one. I think it just makes application process a lot easier. All right, you guys, today's was very short and very sweet. Let me know what you guys think about this foundation down in the comment section below. Is it something that you guys feel like is maybe a little too high maintenance for you and you're just going to pass? Or is it something that you're super interested in because it really does blank out like everything? If you've got redness, scarring, hyperpigmentation, this would be the one that I would reach for. And especially if you're looking for something that's going to last you like forever and a day, then that's going to be your foundation. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. I'm definitely super curious on this one. If you are new here, welcome. Thank you so much for coming by. I'm so glad that you did. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on your way out. Make sure you guys come visit me over on Instagram at Erica Approved. And as always, I hope you guys are all very happy and very healthy. And I will see you guys in the next video. Mwah!